Hey, welcome to Papers, Scissors, and Hand Grenades. I forgot what the name of the show is already. That was good.
I guess rock, paper, hand grenades.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Close.
The hand grenade. And the thing is, we brought a hand grenade. Just if the show bombs, it's really gonna bomb.
Okay, we're gonna say you brought the hand grenade, that way I don't get in trouble just in case
Right.
we get,
Yeah.
you know.
I like the element of danger.
Well, Elizabeth brought the hand grenade.
Yeah. Nice.
No, actually I did, but I'm a politician, so I have to cast blame as soon as there is any. That's
Very well done. Are you Democrat? I didn't know you were
No,
Democrat.
no. It's politician, period.
Oh, okay.
Right.
My
Party
mistake.
affiliations are irrelevant.
My mistake. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Tonight we are doing a continuation of what Cheryl Marr started, and the show is about political and social topics, and we hope to continue in the same vein that Cheryl started with, and we're excited to be here.
Yep, basically, Cheryl started something I thought was pretty awesome. I think we all did. It was, about like Elizabeth said, about social issues and political, and it just seemed wrong to let that die just because she's gone on to greener pastures. So that's what this show's all about. Tonight, what we're going to do is about alcoholism. And the reason we're doing that is it's a huge problem throughout the city, the state, the country. Oh, I forgot my paperwork in the other room. But roughly 37% of the people that die on New Hampshire roads die due to drinking and driving. It's still a huge problem. It's declined since 1982 since Mothers Without Drunk Driving got very active and the laws started cracking down and things like that. But still, 30% of the fatalities is way too high.
Is your stuff in the green room, Gary? I can go grab it.
Yeah, I think I put it on the couch.
It's on the couch.
Okay, I'll get it.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Matt.
sir.
No problem.
Well, like I said, that number's still really, really high. And that's really why we want to talk about this. The number of fatalities is one issue, but then if you look at the social cost to families, kids growing up with an alcoholic parents, mother or father or brother, it just decimates families. As a politician, I see the ramifications at the state level because of how many state and federal services we need to compensate for the abuse of alcoholism. It's just a major problem that the more people know about it, the better. And today, we're fortunate enough to have somebody who's dealt with that problem so far. Her name is Donna, and I'm going to let her tell her story. We're not taking any phone calls till Donna's done, just so she doesn't get interrupted. And right now, I'd like to just turn it over, unless you got something to say before.
Just what we're doing tonight is we've welcomed Donna into the show just in an anonymous way. You won't see her face, but you will hear her, so that you can get an idea, a feel, because many of us, myself included, I'm a non-addictive personality. So this is a topic that a lot of us don't have any education on. A lot of us have no experience with. Even if, Donna and I were talking earlier, even if we have a family member who has this affliction, this disease, I'm not sure how you would best classify it. It's a totally unique thing to be the person who is the alcoholic. And so we thought it would be nice to hear from someone, their own personal story, to put it into perspective for us. So Donna, if you would.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous. You had mentioned, about it being an affliction or a disease. The American Medical Association does diagnose this as a disease.
Okay.
And it very much is so. I am a person in recovery, 12-step recovery myself, and have dealt with my demons for many years. As Gary was saying, I really didn't know where to go with this or what to say, and he was talking about the fatality rates, and I have a sister who was brain damaged from a car accident, drinking and driving, when she was 16. Both my sisters were in the car.
Wow.
And she spent a year in the hospital. through Kennedy Memorial and all of that, and had to continue to live her life with my mom up until last year. She passed away.
I'm sorry.
And, she was 48, and it's young to pass away, and it was directly due to alcohol, drug abuse, and her passing away was due to the ailments from after the repercussions of the car accident. My other sister came out of it, somewhat unscathed, but my biological father died in a car accident. So I'm very well, I guess, informed on the tragedies as far as the deaths and.
It sounds like it's hit your family quite
Oh
big.
yeah, definitely. My brothers, my sisters, are also dealing with their demons too. They haven't found recovery yet. Hopefully someday they will, and I believe. I totally believe in recovery, and that there is help out there,
So how did it all start for you? When did you start, just you start drinking and...
Well, I grew up in an Italian family, and
Oh, okay.
That
well, there
speaks
you go.
volumes. That speaks volumes right
know.
there.
all
offense
over.
to the Italian.
We could say, yeah,
the phone
we
calls.
could say Irish, 'cause it's all over now, right? The Irish Catholic, the Italian, but growing up in an Italian family, the wine was with the dinner, and being young kids, and the parents would give us wine after dinner so that we would all pass out and they could play cards and do the adult things, And to be honest with you, I don't know if that, brought on my alcoholism and, my addictions and stuff. But what I do know is I started at a very young age with, and it started with, cigarettes. And then it went from cigarettes to alcohol and alcohol onto, other drugs, those gateway drugs that they talk about.
Right.
That people say, oh, no, that's not a drug. And, I'd started very young, and I continued to drink and drug for many years.
How did that affect you in school?
My education was not good. I ended up having to leave high school. I was going from job to job. I had left home. I was a very lost child.
Soul.
It took me a very long time to kind of stop, and
So if I may ask, then what brought about the catalyst for change? What brought about the desire and to stop and to make a difference and to reach out? And who did you reach out to in the beginning?
the pain was great enough for me. The emotional, spiritual pain was pretty severe. I've had a lot of it in my life, and the more I drank and the more I did other substances, the less and less it was numbing me, and the pain was becoming greater and greater, and I couldn't deal any longer. I couldn't stop the pain any longer, and I had entered treatment.
Just to back up.
Yeah.
What were some of the, what were some of the signposts? Before you get
Right.
to that, what were some of the
Well, as a young girl, first and
'Cause it's usually
foremost,
something
yes, that got
you
me.
look back and say, oh, okay, I should have known then.
Yeah.
Yeah, warning
You think?
sign.
Yeah, I had plenty of those.
Your
And
sister
I've
had
hit
been
a
in the
few of
accident
those.
by now, correct?
Huh?
Your sister had been in the
Yeah,
accident by now?
they had been in the accident. I was 15, she was 16. My other sister, we were all a year apart, she was 14. And at that point, that's when I was really delving into my disease, and as scared as I was about what happened to her, I didn't know how to handle it, so I
Absolutely. You were
continued
very
to
young.
drink. I got thrown out of school. I was on probation. I was breaking laws. I was, all these signposts. I was ending out, I ended up in a foster home, which, with my family and our background, nobody's ever ended out in a foster home. Somebody, if something happened to one of the family members, one of the other family members would take us on, but nobody wanted to take me on, and I ended out being with, associating with people, especially men who were far older than I was, being thrown out of my house, living in abusive situations, not being able to hang on to jobs. Like as the years went on, between 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, like my disease like progressed. It kind of like bloomed and bombed.
And you were
at the
collecting
same time.
scars along the way, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
yeah.
So when it came time for you to say, and you said, I want to stop, I need to change direction,
Mm.
did you know to go to AA, or did you start in some other way?
No, I started in a different way. My parents said I had a son. I had at 22 had my son, and I was out of control, way out of control, and I didn't know how to take care of him. I didn't know how to be a parent to him. I was being irresponsible. My parents were taking care of him more than anything. And the only way for me to be a parent to my son was to find help. And somehow my mom had heard about a treatment center, and I got sent to a treatment center for alcoholism and drug addiction.
At what age?
I was 23 then.
That was the first time they tried that?
Yes.
Okay.
But what a nice
They
catalyst,
couldn't
your
stop
son.
me. That was the problem. They couldn't, nobody for the longest time couldn't, like, I don't know why. Like, I always slipped through the system, slipped through my parents. Like, I was very, very out of control.
So was this the full-time facility that you went to?
Yes, I was there for a full 28 days. And it was, of course, the best experience I ever had, and I was
was?
very grateful. Yes, yes. It was in the North Shore of Massachusetts, and I stayed there 28 days, and it was the first time in my life that I ever saw reality, per se, as far as like not being alcohol and drug induced. We were right by the ocean, and they introduced us to meetings, to dealing with our feelings, triggers, dealing with the mental, physical, and spiritual part of this disease. And I stayed sober from there for 8 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what, some people who aren't alcoholics won't understand some of the, if, just before you went into treatment, what were the feelings you were having? Because a lot of people can see what the obvious difficulties, like you say, you couldn't hold a job, you couldn't do this, you're doing all kinds of things I'm sure you would rather not remember that you did.
Yeah.
The signs we see in
yeah,
your
the-
typical troubled child or troubled kid, right?
Yeah. Well, all those things are, but what was inside your head at the time? In other words, were you desperate? Were you just hated,
I was scared, desperate, very, very desperate. A whole lot of fear, whole lot of hurt, a whole lot of pain, a lot of things that I didn't know how to deal with, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I remember prior to going into the treatment center, I remember being in my apartment on my floor with a bottle, drinking, and just all out crying about everything, things that happened in my past, things that were happening at that time, the loss of me not being able to be a parent to my son, the progression of this disease, and me not being able to stop and not knowing like how to stop. Like, it was very, very painful, a lot of pain.
Well, I'd like to hear how you got from the family intervention, which I read actually quite a bit about in preparation for this show, and as most people probably know, Betty Ford just passed away
Yes.
recently, and she was quite the rebel.
Yes, she was.
I've enjoyed reading about her, but how you went from this family intervention, 8 years, clean and sober, I take it you had a relapse. How did you get to where you are now, which clearly is in a good spot?
Right. I had after 8 years, I had stayed sober, I had moved, I had started working. I was doing a lot of things that society expected of me, you know what I mean? But I was not taking care of what was going on inside of me. I was not dealing with the real issues. I wasn't dealing with the trauma of losing my father when I was a baby. I wasn't dealing with the trauma of some abuse growing up and, you know, the trauma of being an alcoholic and a drug addict woman on the street, or I wasn't dealing with losing my son and my sister's accidents. Like, that stuff, I was like, okay, well, that's all done. Now I'm going to go out after, you know, getting sober. I said, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get, I moved, I got a job, I got my son back, you know, everything on the outside was looking good, and I wasn't taking care of anything on the inside, and I was going to meetings, but it was more on a social thing than it was.
wasn't quite hitting home.
No, I wasn't doing, there's work to be done. Going to meetings is great. You are going to meet wonderful people. You're going to have a fellowship. You're going to have a support system. But there's steps beyond that, which are our 12 steps. That
So now
help
we're
us.
talking about AA meetings in
Yes.
particular.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I eventually got away from that after 7-8 years, and I had a relapse. And I've been relapsing on and off for, a good 10, 15 years now. And as of yesterday, I had 90 days again. My disease absolutely 100% basically brought me to the point of the day before I was going to take my life.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. That brings me, that comment shows the depth of pain that this disease can cause. And Gary and I were speaking the other day about how to help a layman, so to speak, understand the depth of pain that alcoholism and drug addiction can cause. And I know I already told you this, so forgive me for saying it again, but we were having coffee, and you were trying to explain to me. And how did you say it?
I said, well, if you read stuff online, you get the gist of it. Some people equate it to, for a normal person to try to quit breathing. But as a more spiritual person, and Elizabeth being a spiritual person, I equated it to step one is admitting that we were powerless over. And you can include anything there. There's a lot of different types of 12-step programs out there.
Careful with that hand.
Yeah, it's going off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm all right. I'm all right.
At least wait till the end of the show.
No, it depends on how it's going.
But what you said about
But I said to Elizabeth is,
can you
in-
imagine
in-
a day without sin?
yeah,
That's what you said.
can you imagine a day without sin? A day that you just do not sin. Try to spend a day without sinning.
Right.
And then if you try to do that, which, you know, a lot of alcoholics do, they try to quit drinking on their own. But they can't because they're so immersed in it. It's the same thing. Is if you try to quit sinning on your own, and then you realize you're pretty much powerless over sin, and then you start using the other steps to try to get beyond that.
Because when you described that to me, I laughed at you. I'm like, of course I couldn't go a day without sinning. I mean, the idea is ridiculous. And he looked at me and he said, that's what it feels like when you're an alcoholic. And I reeled from that. I thought that was so profound because now that I can grasp. And it's huge. And instantly my empathy kicked in. I had sympathy and I had compassion for alcoholism. But that's the first time I understood it on a personal level and could empathize with you. So I thought that was a wonderful and profound way to describe it to someone who might not, experience it.
Right. It is. It's very difficult for people who don't have the disease and have friends or family, close to them, and they're like, well, just stop. Or
Right.
just say no.
Just say no.
We talked
Just
about
get
that.
over
You know
it.
what I mean? I'm like,
They have no idea.
yeah, and
it's a
you
problem,
know, yeah. And for the longest time, I thought that myself. Like for those 8 years, I think that's really what I did was just say no. My life was getting better, and I knew that, but I didn't understand that this disease that I had was like all encompassing for me. Every part of me, doesn't know how to live without a drink unless I take care of the symptoms.
Right. And of course the core issue, which we don't know if it's genetic or not.
Well, actually, that's not necessarily true.
There is evidence to suggest
There's
it is,
evidence,
right?
but
There's a
there's
lot-
not solid
There's
yes or no.
there's pretty good evidence. I believe it was either Norway or Sweden had kept very good records of their identical twins. I think it was, yes, identical twins. And when they would get split up or something in like for adoption. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't identical twins. I'm getting two things confused. It was just adoption. They had very good records as adoption records, and they found that if a child was born of two alcoholics, okay, the parents gave them up because they were alcoholics. The odds were, regardless of where they were brought up, if they were brought up in a home where there's no alcohol, there was alcohol, it really didn't make a lot of difference.
They were physically
They were predisposed, and there would be if there were triggers, it would activate the alcoholism, because it's preceded by basically an addictive personality. I mean, we all know people like that. It doesn't necessarily translate into alcoholism, but we all know people who are absolutely addicted to things, you know, whether it's, you know, when they're little kids, it's baseball cards. They have to have the newest, greatest baseball card, or whatever it is. As that goes on, that predisposition exists genetically, but then it's typically activated by events in life.
Yes.
You know, like your father dying could have been the thing that just snapped
Right.
and put you, you know, unable to deal with that. You can't deal with the emotion, so the alcoholism becomes a panacea to deal with emotions that are stuck
The
inside your head.
self-soothing behavior that we all have in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I like about Alcoholics Anonymous is the all-encompassing spiritual aspect. It doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter if you have a religion. It doesn't matter what your credo is, what your motto is, what your mission statement is. It doesn't
Right.
matter if you're atheist or not. I like how it's able to do that. Do you find that you still hold to that,
Oh, absolutely.
the spiritual direction it gave you?
Yes,
You do?
absolutely. I have a higher power, and you know, I choose to call mine God. I was brought up Catholic and baptized and all of that. But when it comes to the 12-step programs, it's about spirituality, not religion. Religions are about laws and rules. Spirituality is about how we can feel better about ourselves, how we can find a way for our spirit to be, you know, free from, you know, living in this addiction on a daily basis. I had my spiritual awakening many, many years ago, and I'm very, very grateful for that. You know, very grateful that I had that, because I didn't believe in God when I first got here. When I, you know, was out there drinking and drugging, I had a lot of troubles, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and I was really angry, and I didn't understand what happened to me and why things like were happening to me, and why I had to live in so much pain throughout a good part of my life. And prior to me actually entering that treatment program, I was in a hospital waiting, and a nurse had asked me to go in my room and ask this thing for help. You know, she goes, ask whatever, you
And
know,
that's a
for
hard
help.
thing to do that first time,
Yeah,
especially when you're angry at them.
yeah. I was very, very angry. I didn't know what to think, but I was in enough pain emotionally. I was willing to do anything. I was willing to do anything.
Which isn't that
so-
the first step?
Yes.
The whole
Yes.
surrender, and that cannot be easy.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
let's face it, humility and surrender does not come naturally
Yeah.
to people.
No, I grew up in a very
Wait.
self-willed, independent
What the hell?
family.
I wrote the book on humility. You kidding me?
Yeah, I read that book. It was really, really short.
It's
great
very
book, just ask
humbling.
No offense.
It's very humbling. It is. But I mean, I grew up in a very independent home. My mom, and very self-willed, so asking for help was really difficult.
Yeah.
My mom took us, after my biological father died, she had 4 kids to deal with in the 60s, and she made a home for us, and she went to college, and, you know, she did
Wow.
all this stuff, and she didn't ask for much help from it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, that's what I was instilled in me, was, like, self-will. And I did carry a lot of that over into, like, my recovery years, and I think that's where I got kind of jammed up, was that self-will thing. As
Because
much
sometimes
as
that can backfire.
it did.
Yeah.
It did. So I, you know, try and use my higher power on a daily basis and His will for me, you know, and not what I ultimately think I should be doing every day in my life, you know, because He's got a greater plan than I do.
Yeah. And kudos to you for being willing to listen to his daily plan.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a message that you're able to give to the listeners, what would that message be? What would you like to tell people out there that are listening that maybe haven't taken the steps that you've taken, that maybe are suffering or don't even realize they're suffering and it's time to ask for help? What would you say to them?
If you're questioning yourself, or if you're beyond questioning and you know that there's a problem, there is help, there is hope, there is life. And you don't have to live in that pain for another day. My last day using this last time, the pain was beyond, it was incomprehensible for me, incomprehensible. And I believe that I probably, if I didn't go into treatment 90 days ago, I wouldn't be here today and alive. And I had asked my higher power that day to, like, either kill me or cure me, you know.
That's
and,
scary. That's hard.
but there is hope, there is help. There's, 12-step programs, 99% of them, if you look in the phone book or whatever, like, you can pick up the phone and call a hotline, and they'll help you get help, You don't have to live in that pain, and if you're not sure, if you're questioning, geez, I don't know, I might have a problem. My experience has been, you got a problem.
Chances are.
If you're asking a
Problem.
question,
Got a problem, get it now, and you don't have to live in that pain anymore.
Now, that first meeting, is that the hardest one? When you first walk in, you've never been there before. Is that the hard one?
You know what, I can't remember my very first meeting. I do remember being very relieved when I entered, treatment. It was part of my spiritual awakening for me. That, like, I knew that there was hope. And I think that's what I've held on to throughout these years is there is hope, there is hope, there is hope. But it can be scary, but there's always people to take you there, or there's, if you're not sure, like, pick up the phone. There's so much out there for help. And people will come and get you. They will take you to a meeting. They will talk to you on the phone. There's so many agencies out there, hospitals that will direct you in the right area, so that you don't have to do this alone.
That's good to
Because
know.
that's the scariest thing you got to do is doing this alone.
I know that, one of the principles AA was founded on was the idea that, because many people, when AA was founded, had been, tried to go to see a psychiatrist or a doctor and stuff like that. Nothing. It did not work. One of the fundamental principles of AA is the idea that you are getting together with another alcoholic to talk because it's somebody that has been there. Can you speak to that, or how's that?
Absolutely. 99%, I'd say 100% of the people in my life are in recovery. The only people that aren't, unfortunately, is my family members, and they don't live close, so I don't get to, like, be around them that often. But
sounds like it becomes a family, though.
yes, it is. It is very much so. I can tell my friends or whoever in a meeting, like, exactly what's going on, like the truth, the real truth. Like, like, I want to pick up a drink and I think my life sucks, or, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to do this today. I'd rather be drinking, you know what I mean? Like, people in the meetings are going to be like, yeah, we get that. We get that. Though, outside help is good. You're going to get your most identification and understanding within a meeting. That's where you're going to meet people that are gonna relate to you, and you're gonna relate to them. That's where, like, it becomes more of a family. It becomes more of a family. And people that are gonna help protect your recovery. People you can call at 2:00 in the morning and say, you know what, I can't sleep tonight. My head's going because of whatever it might be. You may be away from a drink and a drug for a period of time, and you got this issue going on in your life, and your head's going. Like, you pick up the phone and call people and say, you know what, this is what's going on, and I don't know what to do about it, because, like, this. For me, my natural reaction to anything and everything is to pick up a drink. I don't care how many years I've been away from it, or how long. My first thought, I'm predisposed to seeking relief and finding that relief in quote normal ways of like picking up the phone or talking to somebody else is absolutely foreign to me. Very foreign. But once I've done it and have that in my life, nothing can take that place. Nothing. Not a drink, not a drug, nothing.
The way you describe it, it's almost like somebody who's in excruciating pain, and they've got an IV set up with one of those little clickers, so they can allow some morphine to come in and just calm them down.
Yep.
And you're in excruciating pain, and you got that little clicker that you could hit
Yes.
that would make it all go away, but you're going through a 12-step program that's teaching you that isn't the solution.
Right.
And you have to resist that temptation, because that's easy. It's easy to go get a drink.
Yes.
It's too easy.
Yes. It is.
So the relief from the pain, which would be instantaneous,
Yes.
is not the solution, but it's such an easy out.
It is. We think it is. The end result, though, I know for me, even after going through so much pain and then thinking that, like, okay, I'm going to pick up a drink or a drug, the minute that I would pick up, that pain became even greater because I had guilt, shame, and remorse, on top of whatever else was going on, because I was trying to achieve some recovery, and then I let it go. I wasn't taking the suggestions. It was so hard for me to pick up the phone and call somebody, but then it was easier for me to pick up a drink and a drug and nearly take my life. That's the insanity of this disease.
And guilt is powerful.
Yes.
I mean, in any situation. I mean,
Yes.
people know guilt. People should be able to identify with guilt.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, Donna, we have another guest with us. You want to introduce yourself, young lady?
Hi, I
You
am.
you need to be near the mic.
Here.
You have to share.
You first.
Hi, I'm Tina, alcoholic addict. Sorry I was late.
Hi, Tina. No worries.
Hi, I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you. We're glad to have you.
Yes.
Donna just basically shared her story. If you wanna,
Share my story.
yeah.
Let's see. Well, I am very grateful to say, by the grace of God, I am 17 months sober. Thank you very much. I was born into more of a, not alcoholic, addiction family, and it was just very chaotic. My mother died when I was 1 from drinking and driving and being under the influence of cocaine. And my whole life I was so mad at that, but through the program and working the steps, I'm grateful for it because I know that there was a reason for that. I do miss her. My father tried to take care of me. It didn't work out that great. The age of 11, I moved in with my aunt, and she was the type that if you were going to use anything, do it here. So right away, I started smoking pot
What age was that?
at 11.
11.
So in a
11.
way, she was trying to keep you safe and keep an eye on you.
Yeah, yes.
So, okay.
Thinking, she's here, so I don't have to worry about...
Maybe it'll discourage her a little bit. That didn't work so well.
It did not work.
But you have to appreciate her attempt at
At
keeping an eye
trying
on
to,
you.
yes.
She meant well, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's at 11.
Yeah, and I had an older cousin, Brian, who was an addict already when I moved in.
Wow.
He passed away on my birthday 4 years ago of overdose.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I did great in school, and then pot, alcohol, it just wasn't enough. And my father was the first one to put a syringe into my arm.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Um,
Can I interrupt? Can I ask you, you look so young. How old are you?
I'm 24.
You're just a baby.
I am a baby, but I'm a grateful baby because, you know what, everybody talks about hitting their rock bottom, and like, I'm going to get sober, but I'm 21, I want to go to the bars. I did all of that already, and, I'm young. I have 2 children. I have
How old
a
are they?
5-year-old daughter who will be 6 August 4th, and a 3-year-old son who will be 4 July
What a
31st.
blessing.
So I am so grateful that, my higher power gave me the second chance of life.
And there's 2 motivations for you.
Absolutely.
What was it, before you sought help, what was going on inside that made you get so desperate that you were willing to do something?
What was going on inside? Well,
Because the external is
Right.
is different, because externally people see whatever you want them to see, but inside is,
And environmentally, you obviously had a lot of people influencing you. I mean, and you
Yes.
can't do much about that sometimes. I mean, what your father did clearly was out of your control.
right. And again, I'm grateful for that too, because he was a heroin addict and he's sober now, but I'm happy he put me there, because I may not be here today if he didn't. But when I got sober, I had moved on and was in the relationship with my kid's father. And his mother was prescribed OxyContin, so they were just fed to me like candy. And then she wouldn't tell me when she'd be out till that day. And that's when I started doing all the illegal things. I got arrested for felony forgery. And I was given the chance to do diversion. And
I don't know what that is.
it's you check in twice a week. You have a certain amount of classes to do, 200 hours of
Okay.
community service. It lasts about a year long. And I would not have that felony on my record.
Okay.
I wasn't ready,
Right.
and I relapsed
Okay.
more than once. You have 3 chances. They sent me to Farnham Center, and I got a lot of information there, but I was not ready. And as you were saying, I got a Farnham Center, and I thought I was better. I thought I was cured and was never going to use again. I even made the mistake of telling my boyfriend all of the things that I had done. Steps are in place for a reason. But 3 days after that, when I, found out that I was being charged for felony forgery, and I was in the morning waking up and shoving my kids to the side and saying, "Mommy needs to get better before I can take care of you." And they saw whatever I did. And I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror, and I was 100 pounds, my face, no soul, you could see it clearly. And I said, "What the heck am I doing?" And I looked at my kids, and that was God telling me, "Tina, go get better." And I called a detox in Mass, and I was there for 17 days, and it was the best thing that happened to me. And I have not used since. But it was just the feeling of emptiness and not being the mother that my children deserved. That disease, I remember growing up saying I would never drink and drive, I would never do this, I would never do that, because I saw, my mom passed away from it, and I saw my father doing this. I saw 3 relatives overdose right in front of me
Cow.
from the disease, and never would I do it. And that disease, once it gets a hold of you, all it wants is for you to die. And my progression, it was quick, and like I said, it was a long time of using, but I am young.
You were
I'm young, and
You sound strong, though. I have to tell you.
I have to say something.
Yeah.
So I just picked up my keys to my first apartment under my own name
Yay.
for me and my 2 children,
Oh, congratulations.
which is amazing. I have been
That's
going
huge.
through a custody battle. I hate to call it that, because the father hasn't, gotten sober yet. But I came to grips with, I can't control him. I can only take care of me and my children, and it's just amazing.
So it's a good day for you.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
good
I'm
day
so
for you.
happy. I am
You
so
can
happy.
see it. Look at your grin.
I had to tell my daughter she wasn't going to go to the same school, but from where we are now, which isn't the best environment, to telling her it's just going to be us.
She gets her mommy.
She was so happy. They were both so happy.
Well, now you have the opportunity to be the mom that you wanted to have.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's huge. That is so huge. Go and be the mom that you always wanted.
Break the vicious cycle.
Yeah, but
Well,
what comes, what, you said, go, that's a good point, go be the mom you always want. What's priority, though? Where's your priorities? What's most important?
My program, the sobriety comes first no matter what. Number
What about
one.
Donna?
Sobriety, recovery, number one. I don't have another shot.
We put something before sobriety, it all falls down.
It's like a house of cards.
Yep,
So are you going, Tina, are you going to AA meetings?
every day.
Every day?
Yep, I am on probation and I am not,
You don't wanna miss
I
a
don't
step.
have to go. I'm not, recommended to go, and I go every day, and I print out my own paper and have it signed through the process of my children in the custody.
Wow.
I can show. I mean, it's all about, 7 o'clock, I actually have to be in Nashua for a commitment. It's all about the program for me. Being active, and I mean, just, it's amazing to know that, well, my home group, they call when I'm not around, people care. And service, giving back what was so freely given to me, and I cannot stress that enough to people. Like I said, every day is a gift from God, whom I choose to call my higher power, and I try to fulfill it the best I can every day.
That's such a beautiful attitude that I don't know if this is the correct way to say it, that healthy people don't even have. Giving the service back that was so freely given to me. That kind of gratitude thinking is not something that, what did I say to you once before? To those,
You're going to have to bring a recorder if you're going to start
I
drawing.
know. My brain is like a sieve. But I find you are a remarkable young lady.
Thank you.
And just right now, your countenance, you are just so full of vibrancy and goodness. And I would love to have you back and hear your story in 6 months. Because
Absolutely.
I'm going to guess that you are just going to have some great times
Trudging
ahead.
that road of happy destiny.
Every day, I'm very impressed. My hat goes off to you, and Donna, also to you.
Yeah, plus your children are cute.
I know, speaking of my children real quick, it's amazing. Before I got a year, they know I go to meetings to stay healthy from Yucky Sippies. I don't,
Sippies.
Terms they can understand.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't bring in, the drugs. They were young, and, Yucky Sippies, keep it simple.
Plus, keep it age appropriate.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
One day I couldn't believe it. They called me out. I had a caffeine drink, so it looked like it could have been like a big, tall sippy in a can. And they go, "Mommy, what is that?" And I'm like, "What?" And they went right up to it, and I go, "Oh my gosh, honey, no." I'm like, "It's a caffeine drink." I'm like, "You can even take a sip if you really want to." I'm like, "No." I'm like, because I do. I tell them every morning, when I get down on my knees and pray. My son said, "Mommy, boys don't pray." I go, "Absolutely they do." And one day
teach 'em.
I could feel something, and I looked, and he was just sitting there. So every morning when I pray, I say, basically for my children, that I, will turn my will over to God to stay sober and be there for my children. And as I was saying before, I got my ear every month. "What color's your chip this month, Mommy?" They have their own little God box with all my chips in it. I bring them to meetings. I want them to know that if they fall down, they can get right back up like their mom can.
What a good example.
Hey, I got something I want my favorite Elizabeth to read, because
You have others I know about?
No, not really.
I should say not. Am I reading all of them?
Yeah. These are.
Okay, this is for-
this is something I grabbed off a AA website this morning. It's 20 questions, and I hope the audience is listening. Go through the questions and check off which ones you think are you fall into, what categories you fall into, or questions you answer yes to.
Do you lose time from work due to drinking? I was going to say thinking. I'm like, oh. Sorry, my bad. Is drinking making your home life unhappy? Do you drink because you are shy with other people? Is your drinking affecting your reputation? Have you ever felt remorse after drinking? Have you ever got into financial difficulties as a result of drinking? Do you turn to lower companions and an inferior environment when drinking? That's interesting. Does your drinking make you careless of your family's welfare? Has your ambition decreased since drinking? Do you crave a drink at a definite time? Do you want a drink the next morning? Does drinking cause you to have difficulty in sleeping? Has your efficiency decreased since drinking? And is drinking jeopardizing your job or business? Do you drink to escape from worries or troubles? Do you drink alone? Have you ever had a complete loss of memory as a result of drinking? Has your physician ever treated you for drinking?
Well, stop.
What?
Was it lost?
Complete loss of memory as a result of drinking.
How can you remember if you had one?
Smacko.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
That's when your buddy tells you stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, remember what you did last night? No.
And that's when the Facebook gets involved and
Yeah, oh,
pictures
yeah.
start showing up that
Oh, yeah,
you really don't want to
Facebooking
know
while
about.
intoxicated should be on the
Oh,
list.
you know,
Yes.
it should
Yes.
be.
I'm sorry.
Do you drink to build up your self-confidence? And have you ever been to a hospital or institution because of drinking? If you have answered yes to any one of these questions, there is a definite warning that you may be an alcoholic. If you'd answer yes to any two, the chances are that you are an alcoholic. And if you have answered yes to 3 or more, you are definitely an alcoholic.
Read where that study's from.
The test questions are used at Johns Hopkins University Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland, in deciding whether or not a patient is an alcoholic.
Yeah,
So,
very good.
those are good questions.
They are.
Well, we are running out of time.
Real quick with the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The book says if you don't.
Would you
think
get
you're an
20 out of
alcoholic-
20 or what? No, what?
If you don't think you're an alcoholic, go to the bar and try and have just one drink.
Oh, that's interesting. That should be on there. That's a very,
Yeah,
very
most people
good
who get to the
cover.
point of going to AA, from everything I understand, is have tried quitting multiple times by
Or
themselves.
justifying or switching it to something else. Like,
Right.
and it wasn't until I understood completely, the mental obsession saying, just that one, you can have just that one. And then the physicalology kicks in. Once you have that one, you're all done.
The justification, like you said.
Yeah. And
So
you just-
instead of, if you get so desperate that you really feel the need to pick up a drink, wouldn't it be just simpler just to grab one of these,
Will you hand me
pull
that?
the pin?
Just hand me that. You're dangerous.
you are something else.
Matt, take this.
All right.
That's exactly
I've got
what
the
it
grenade
is.
now.
Yeah, now Matt has it. He can use it on his next show.
That's right.
Oh, you can't see Matt on this show tonight, so.
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention was part of the Serenity Prayer that AA uses, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going
You gotta read the whole thing. That's
want
a
me to read
good
the
one.
whole
That's a
thing?
good one. That's a
It's
good one.
amazing.
Unless you are intimately involved in a meeting, you don't know this prayer. And I absolutely love it. It's called the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
Everyone should know this.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And you can use it for everything.
Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. Accepting hardships is the pathway to peace. I think you've gotten that one down. Taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. I think you've got that one. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen.
Amen.
I think that's beautiful, and that encompasses everyone. You don't have to be, like you said, in a religion which has man-made rules.
Right.
Spiritual are Heavenly Father's rules, and I love that. I love that about what AA does for everyone.
Sorry, one thing my sponsor taught me is now I break it down. So I'm saying, God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. Obviously, it's God. Grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, almost everything. Courage to change things I can, which is me and my outlook
Right.
and my attitude.
And the wisdom to
and the
know the
wisdom
difference.
to know the difference. But I now, like, when I'm saying it so much, that one thing, I break it down and I examine so I can actually work on that, because I have to say alcoholism is just the disease is but a symptom.
And it's only one part of who you are. You are much more than that.
Once I started doing the steps, I will say I was a volcano of emotions. You know, the disease is just a disease. It's, you know, like it was saying, shoving all my feelings down. So, like, I can now say, I'm codependent. I never knew that. I go to CODA now, you know. I love Al-Anon, you know. There are so many things that I never knew. But through the 12 steps and being open-minded, it really is but a symptom. And, you know, surrendering, which I have to do a lot every day.
Right.
It's not just in the morning.
Right.
It's I
It's
wish.
throughout the day.
It's all the time. I don't know. I kind of just went off track, but
Well, ladies, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both for joining us today. Gary, this was a wonderful topic, and thank you for inviting them here.
thank you for having
We
us.
appreciate your time and all your comments.
The thing I want to stress is, like Donna and Tina, work the program. If you're having trouble, there's avenues out there. You can go online, look it up, AA. If you're having trouble with drugs, there's all kinds of other addictions that don't necessarily fall into this particular category that people have that they might need help with. And there are 12-step programs out there that do really wonderful things. They're really doing God's work, and I hope you guys reach out and try to get some help. We want to talk a little bit about some stuff we got coming up. On the 24th, this is one of Elizabeth's brilliant ideas. It really is a cool idea. Is on the 24th of August, we're having Dr. Malcolm Smith here to talk about bullying,
That's-
because that's coming up in school pretty soon. And
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Malcolm Smith, my wife teaches at Memorial High School, and she said of all the seminars she's gone to, because she goes to a lot of them being a teacher, this is easily the best or one of the best seminars she's ever gone to, was done by this Dr. Malcolm Smith about bullying, because there's a lot of preconceived notions that we just don't even know about bullies. Years ago, for instance, it was presumed that all bullies were just insecure people trying to, you know, make themselves seem bigger, but apparently that really isn't.
Not that simple.
It's
Now,
not that.
with the introduction of the internet and email and Facebook, it's changed.
It's changed
It's
too, yeah.
changed.
So now, not only are you getting bullied at school where before you could escape, now you go home and
It's
you get
all
it again
over.
on Facebook and other social media. So we're having Dr. Malcolm Smith on the 24th. I'm hoping to get that information out to a lot of people so people in town can listen to that.
Next week, we hope to have lots of callers. Next week, we're actually going to take on Hillary Clinton. We have differing opinions on the idea of it takes a village to to raise a child. And the challenge this week is I'm going to buy the book, and I'm actually going to read it all, and then we're going to talk about it next week. So I hope that we get lots of callers in on that one, because it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Coming up, I'm not sure if it's going to be the week after that or one of these weeks, we're also going to have Representative Ross Terrio. He's a new representative from Manchester in, and maybe another couple state reps that are freshman state representatives, to try to give an overview of what it's like to go up to Concord and listen to people sling bull all day long. It's like going to a car dealership, only people are better dressed. And what else? I'm chairman of Fish and Game in the House of Representatives, so we're going to, our producer wants us to do, and it's a really cool idea too, I don't know when we're going to do it, we're going to have somebody from Fish and Game in and talk about new hunting regulations and laws, so people can call in about that. We're going to pretty much cover everything.
And we have a new Facebook
Working on it,
Yeah,
working on
He's
it.
working on it under the topic of rock, paper, hand grenades. And so if you have topics you guys want to talk about, then
Posted on it.
post it on comments and we'll do our best. And again, we want to give a special hello and we love you to Cheryl Lamar and her family and say thank you and carry on. We love you and we're thinking about you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And good night.
Thank you.